Hello, School Transportation Nation. Tony Corcoran here. Excited to have you with us this week. This episode is brought to you by TransFinder, the leader in school bus routing software. Just a little bit later, I'll be talking with the CEO of Zoom. Also, we have a special guest, Sylvie di Giusto, who is our keynote speaker at STN EXPO in Indianapolis in June. That's June 2nd through the 6th, guys. Don't forget to sign up, lock in our early bird rate. It's good. You can save $100 all the way to the end of the month. Also, we have STN EXPO Reno. If you missed our super early bird, we still got early bird. Guys can save. Be sure and go check that out as well. That's July 14th through the 19th in Reno, Nevada, and Lake Tahoe as well. So really excited for that. And I have with me the wonderful, the fabulous Taylor Ekbatani. Welcome, Taylor.
Hello, thanks. Yeah, I'm filling in for Ryan Gray. He is out on spring break with his kids. So I know a lot of districts around us and here in California and, nationwide have had their spring break. So lots going on there. But yeah, he's off in sunny Florida, I think.
Yeah, hopefully enjoying the good life there at all the theme parks there in Orlando, playing tourists. But, Taylor, there's a lot happening in the school transportation industry. We had the EPA come out, make a big announcement about emissions, and there's a little press release that came out, and I saw school buses listed. You want to give us a little bit of what's going on there?
Yeah, and the industry's kind of been preparing for this. I wrote about it in the March issue, kind of looking at like what's the future of diesel with these heavier emissions kind of coming out. And, really it falls on the OEMs, the manufacturers, to ensure that they are compliant, with these new regulations. But essentially, the press release is kind of saying that these proposals would avoid nearly 10 billion tons of CO2 emissions. So they're really cutting back. I mean, it's the strongest ever pollution standards for cars and trucks. So they're really pushing, that transition to a clean transportation future.
Yeah, I know, Taylor, when I looked at the press release, I saw nothing about funding, which therein lies the question, is it another unfunded mandate? Yeah, probably, right? We love those, right? School transportation is always asked to do more with less. So I'm curious to see what that looks like. Maybe there'll be some funding that goes along with it. Obviously, they're probably looking at the Clean School Bus program. We're still waiting, holding our breath for what that program is going to look like. We have the $5 billion over the next 5 years. So the first billion or so came out. I think some vehicles are starting to get delivered, still kind of out there with all the supply chain issues. And now we have the next $1 billion tranche, which apparently will be a competitive grant. So that's a little bit different than the last program detail. So we'll see. We're still waiting on what that's going to look like. I know we're preparing in the next couple of weeks to head out to ACT Expo in Anaheim, which is basically an advanced clean technology conference, and more OEM and, a lot of energy companies, not so aligned with school bus per se, but, really a great place for us to kind of look at future trends in energy and see where things are headed and kind of get the pulse on that. And STN is a media sponsor there, so we'll be handing out our April and May editions. So excited for that, Taylor. Can't wait to see it. I know they've got a cool lineup of different companies. There was one specifically, which is Ford Pro, which they kind of had launched a new school bus offering that was electric in combination with Collins. And we're hoping to get some time with them while we're out there to get some more details on that offering with Ford going all in on electric and school buses. So always very interesting to see what's happening out there in the world, Taylor. Are you got any interviews lined up at the ACT Expo?
Not yet, but it's a great conference. It's right in our backyard, right? I think this one's in Anaheim, California. So quick drive for us. But it always has interesting things on the trade show. While yes, there are school buses there, I'm always like looking at the cars. And I'm like, whoa, that's a really cool kind of future that we're looking at right now. So I'm really excited for that coming up.
Yeah, wonderful.
But Tony, you mentioned the Clean School Bus program and the EPA and that program that they, kind of wrapped up that rebate. I just want to remind everyone that the deadline to submit their payment request forms is April 28th. So definitely, if you guys have gotten those funds, been awarded that, and you've purchased buses, make sure to send those payment request forms to the EPA. They are granting extensions, on a case-by-case basis. We have an article online that kind of talks about it a little more. So if you need a little bit more time or, you're having some supply chain disruptions, anything like that, go ahead and email the EPA, kind of explain to them why you need to extend. But yeah, that is coming up really quickly. I can't believe it's already April, but we are here.
That's right. Yeah. The May issue is in the works right now. So we're excited to see the possibility of when that's going to hit the street, May 1st. So not far off. And we're really excited. We're going to be talking a little more about security and connectivity. So there's some good topics that are in the works there, guys. So really looking forward to that. All right, Taylor, got a special message from TransFinder about Route Finder Plus and Wayfinder. The award-winning product offered by TransFinder is industry-leading routing solution, and Wayfinder is a driver app that is changing the way drivers and subs approach their routes. Together, this pair provides a winning combination to help combat school transportation woes, including driver shortages, inefficiencies, student discipline issues, while helping you improve the driver experience. Route Finder Plus is intuitive, browser-based, includes route optimization to help you build the most efficient routes. Wayfinder, the driver app, provides turn-by-turn instructions, allows users to take attendance, which works seamlessly with Plus. Guys, you can learn more about TransFinder's dynamic duo of products by emailing them at getplus@transfinder.com or giving them a call at 800-373-3609. All right, Taylor's going to give you some really important deadlines that are coming up that you guys need to be aware of. Taylor, what do we got?
So, Tony, we got some more deadlines coming up here on April 28th. So this is a popular day if you're trying to submit, some awards or anything like that. But we're looking for the Innovator of the Year. So why don't you kind of tell everyone what we're looking for in this Innovator of the Year?
Yeah, so last year's Innovator of the Year was Alex Cook from First Student. So we're working with the NSTA, which is the Contractors Association, and we wanted to put together an award that identified in an innovative school contractor professional. So private fleet operators that are doing really interesting and innovative things in the area of special needs, green technology, safety, security, just a broad spectrum of areas. So if you guys know someone that's doing an amazing job or somebody that's created something or been innovative, we would love to hear about it. If you go to the stnonline.com website, you go to our Innovator of the Year story, you'll be able to drop a nomination right in that story. There's a form you can fill out. We could also send an email out probably here this week reminding you, so keep an eye on your email because guess what? We'll be reminding everybody of all the April 28th deadlines. So that's really what we're looking for, Taylor. So call out there in the industry. Guys, we need your nominations. Please submit. We love hearing from you, providing recognition to people that are doing amazing things in your organization. But make sure you work for a school bus contractor.
Yeah, another April 28th deadline is our Green Bus Summit Fleet Awards. So if you guys know a school district or bus company that's, really focusing on emission reduction and positive impacts on the students and communities, definitely nominate them. We present these at STN EXPO Reno. I know we had, 5 last year that won?
Yeah,
so
there's 5 categories. So we have small school district, large school district, rural school district. We do small school bus contractor and large school bus contractor. So those are the 5 categories. It's based on fleet size because we want everybody to kind of play in the same sandbox, recognize innovative fleets that have transitioned to green technologies that are moving that direction. Obviously, that has been amplified significantly with all the EPA funds. So guys, you definitely probably know someone that's investing in green or doing things innovatively in the green area. So we would love to recognize them at Green Bus Summit at STN EXPO in Reno. That'll take place on July 16th. We actually have its own dedicated awards event on the 16th of July, which is 5 p.m. to 6:30. So there'll be appetizers, drinks. We're going to be giving away the awards. It's also sponsored by IC Bus. They were so generous to sponsor the awards this year. So really awesome opportunity to recognize your district. You can self-nominate. So if you've done something innovative in the green area, please self-nominate yourself. We're definitely looking for great stories for the magazine and website, as well as recognizing innovative green fleets out there.
Yep. And they can find that nomination form on STN Online as well. So definitely get those nominations in before April 28th, guys.
Yeah, and I think also at greenbussummit.com, if you click on the Reno, if you go there, you will find the nomination form there as well. It'll say nominate. So guys, lots of places. We give you lots of areas. We'll send again another email about that. So keep an eye on your email. We're sending you a lot of emails lately, so don't feel inundated. We're really trying to help remind you of everything. So we appreciate you being interactive with all the email correspondence. We're sending surveys, everything. I'm sure Taylor's looking for a survey. She's surveying everyone. Taylor, you got a survey you want people to fill out too?
There'll be one coming out. It's for people with electric school buses. So, if you don't have an electric school bus, it probably won't apply to you. But yes, lots of surveys.
Wonderful. Well, guys, really excited to bring our next guest. It's the CEO of Zoom. They're a transportation company. They're carbon neutral as well, which is very interesting. So I'm going to dive into the details with their CEO, Ritu Narayan. All right, nation, super excited to bring our next guest on the podcast, Ritu Narayan, who's the CEO of Zoom, their school transportation operator. And we're excited to have you, Ritu. You've been on before, so it's good to have you on again, the podcast.
Thank you, Tony. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, so Zoom has been very busy. We see you guys in the headlines. I know my editor, Ryan Gray, mentioned the other week that you were on like the fast track financial company's fastest growing contractor in the United States from a revenue standpoint. So I thought, wow, that's amazing. You guys are doing some really amazing things. Can you give our audience a little sense who may not be as familiar with Zoom? How many school districts you currently serve? How many vehicles are you running in your fleet? What does that kind of look like from a landscape standpoint?
Yes, absolutely. Everything you're hearing, Tony, is a reflection of the opportunity in the market and how much the change is needed for what we do here. So Zoom is modernizing school transportation. It is, as you know, is an antiquated space, not touched by technology a whole lot. Still, the transportation is done on walkie-talkie or using the paper pad and other things. And the end result of that is schools spend or districts spend enormous amount of time, and yet they do not get the safety and reliability that's needed. And that's the problem we are solving using our technology, which we have built over the years through our experience of actually running these rides, and also by sustainability and moving the districts forward in the sustainable direction. Today, we are actually serving most of the large districts on the West Coast, some in the Midwest, and also going towards East Coast. We have around 1,000 school buses and serve 4,000 plus schools on a daily basis. So it has been a pretty ride for us. We have performed around 6 million student rides on a platform at this point.
And what's the time horizon on that amount of rides?
We've been doing this for the last 8 years, and more, I would say, more rigorously, including the buses, for the last 4 years.
Got it. And originally the company started out more of a home to school model, and it's evolved into a much larger school bus contractor kind of mixed fleet. And that growth you've seen organically happen, it's almost like a hyper growth in the last, 3 or 4 years, right?
Zoom has been always touched the need, which is such an essential need for the customers. Initially, the idea came out of my own personal need of how do you pick up and drop off your children safely and reliably while you're still at work as a working parent. But very early on, schools started asking us to use the same platform for their routes, and we started providing that. And we saw such an amazing traction very quickly over the 2-3 years following that, from 2016 to 2019. And in 2019, 2019, we said that the platform works so amazingly for customers that why don't we take the 100% of transportation and make them available the same technology to optimize the entire system, to give our technology in the hands of every parents, every school districts, every school and every driver who's performing the ride, to make it really a great experience. And that's when we started serving the large districts and the full transportation. The value proposition is such that districts have been adopting us fairly fast. And that's why you talk about that fast growth for us here.
I know with Zoom, you guys, we've participated with you at some driver appreciation events here in Los Angeles. Can you talk about like what we're doing in the industry to kind of amplify the value of school bus drivers, especially with School Bus Driver Appreciation Month? What does that look like in terms of Zoom's culture?
Zoom is very mission-driven company. Almost every single person who comes on it is really driven by the change that we are bringing to this very important service. And that goes without saying to our drivers too. Drivers are like our brand ambassadors. They see children every single day. They see school districts every single day. And they're very committed to their job. Like some of the drivers have been driving in this space for recently we had honored a driver who had been driving with us for 51 plus years in this industry. And it's such an amazing thing that they feel a sense of like a culture change, where starting from our break rooms to our buses that we provide to them, to the technology we provide in terms of the tablets and all the information and the routes, and students, when they get on the bus, they get checked in and automatically everybody gets notified. All of these bring amazing peace of mind even to the drivers in terms of focusing 100% on the child and their experience and driving, instead of worrying about all the other things that can happen, thousands of things that can happen. And we feel amazing about our drivers. They are really part of making this company great. So from time to time, we have a community that we have built around them, and we go district by district or yard by yard or location by location and love to do these Driver Appreciation Day.
And then, you know, as you've been kind of expanding out your footprint, are there any kind of common themes that you're finding in terms of the RFPs as well that you're responding to, as well as the existing clients that you're taking on all the new business? And you took on LA Unified, which is like a giant in the market. So like if you could take on LA, you could take on anything, right?
Thank you for saying that. What is surprising to us, like I come from before Zoom, I had started Zoom, I used to work at eBay, and I had seen how you can, using a unified platform approach, really provide the best service to millions of people across the world. And the same approach, it is our vision to bring it to this space in student transportation. And what I see is a strong desire and student-centric mindset that each district have. They think about the student's experience as so strongly. And when those two things are aligned, like at Zoom, we like to say we are very student-centric. Everything that has been built around in the entire system is making sure that the student is safe, the student has a great experience on their entire ride, they are prepared to actually participate in the class, their commute times are reduced so that they can engage in the after-school activities and other things they should be spending time on. They have a pollution-free ride, and over the time, our goal is to make it carbon emission-free completely. So with those goals, I'm very surprised to see how districts across the country are so aligned on providing the similar benefits to the students. And they are actually more and more writing their RFP to make sure they achieve those goals.
Interesting. Yeah. So in terms of carbon neutrality, we talked a little bit earlier about the EPA and the aggressive standards that they're going to be taking in the future on trucks and cars and school buses specifically as well for our industry. And, you know, Zoom is positioning itself as a carbon neutral company. Can you explain a little bit what that exactly means?
Mm-hmm. So we call ourselves a net zero company. We are carbon neutral today, but carbon emissions free as we electrify the fleet. So what we realized was that our goal is to have 100% of our fleet electrified in the next few years. But even before you do that, we need to make a contribution and not wait for that to happen to be a carbon emission-free company. We started making 100% of our ride carbon neutral. So essentially, we make sure that we are netting out anything that we might be giving out in the environment. And from that perspective, so all of our rides starting 2021 are carbon neutral. And as we electrify the vehicle, every bus that we electrify saves 110 ton of carbon emissions. As you know, the combined together 500,000 school buses create around 8.3 million tons of carbon emissions. So our goal is to be a very large player in making an impact of reducing a very large slice of those carbon emissions going forward.
Yeah. And do you feel that because the company was so heavily positioned on the West Coast that you have this very forward thinking green focus? Is that kind of where this is coming from?
Climate is truth everywhere. Like it is nowhere, no part of the country, every part of the country, the world is influenced. The planet is influenced by the climate. It's a reality. The reason we were so climate forward was we realized that only by having a platform that you can provide that 100% emission free, even if you have an EV bus, if you're not charging your EV bus to the right source of energy, you may be more polluting than not having an EV bus. So having the platform enables us to make sure we are charging at the right time with the right renewable source of energy to actually reduce the carbon emission. We are discharging the buses at the right time. To do all of that, we are in the space and the capability to be able to provide that to the districts.
Got it. Now, in terms of helping school districts and kind of strengths and weaknesses, what are you finding is where Zoom is really thriving, where you're kind of standing out from the pack and doing stuff? You talked about technology, you talked about carbon neutrality. Is it the people that's really making this an amazing experience?
Absolutely. I mean, it is the entire package that the districts get when they take on Zoom, right from the experience of even when they have not fully partnered with us. Districts feel a big change in how we think about bringing them into the future of transportation. And once we bring in the quality of people and how they are very, like one of our key values is customer obsession. We really are perceptive about the needs of the students and help the districts move forward into this area. And districts feel that impact right from the beginning. We are very heavy on training our drivers and making sure that the child, school districts, everybody have a big experience. And from that regards, they feel the entire difference. From transparency and visibility point of view, districts have complete control over their transportation in terms of how routes are designed, how they can take actions in real time, how they have visibility of every single child, where they are and where the bus is. And on top of it, they have very clear idea of the metrics. They know timeliness record of how many buses are coming on time, how many children were actually attended the school a certain particular day, where the children got handed off. If there are alerts and exceptions, districts are able to make those decisions very fast. So it is a combination, as you pointed out, of the technology, sustainability, people and processes that makes district, typically they tell us they feel a day and night difference when Zoom comes into the district.
And then what are some of the other market trends you're seeing, right? You're coming from an outside industry. You're coming in, you've been in the industry for 8 years. So now you're feeling like you're a little more of an industry veteran here. What are the trends? What are you seeing in the future that's coming that, school transportation professionals need to be more aware of?
I would say continued penetration of technology and digitization. You will see more and more of that, taking a platform approach where all the districts are unified, and not just a district, but all the district in an area, on a state, in a country are unified on a platform so that they can have the best of the breed, just like Amazon provides the best of the e-commerce experience to millions of customers. districts will be able to experience that kind of an experience here. And then sustainability is a huge change that is coming because electric school buses are the largest battery on wheels. They will also provide electricity back to the grid. So given that the entire infrastructure of school transportation will change in terms of how the yards are designed, how the charging infrastructure is installed, what is the kind of platform or software districts are using to charge and to provide energy back to the grid. So it'll become an amazing force of change in the coming future.
Excellent. Well, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing some of your insights with us today. If people want to learn more about Zoom, where do they go?
Our site, ridezoom.com, ridezum.com. On that, we have everything, including when you go in our company section, we have our vision for 2025 and beyond, which talks about some of the points we touched upon in this podcast.
Excellent. Well, really appreciate you coming. I know we're going to see you at the STN EXPO this year too in Reno, so can't wait to see your team. And I know you guys were also out at our Transporting Students with Disabilities and Special Needs Conference, so excited to have you part of the STN family. Appreciate you coming on the podcast today and sharing a little bit about your growth, your strategies, your vision for the future. Exciting stuff happening at Zoom.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you for having me.
Next up, I'll be talking with Sylvie di Giusto, persuasion expert and keynote speaker at STN EXPO Indianapolis. All right, School Transportation Nation, we're in for a real treat. We have STN EXPO Indianapolis keynote speaker Sylvie di Giusto with us today. She's going to be talking a little bit about her expertise, and she's really good at describing and talking about first impressions as well as persuasion. Very interesting topics for school transportation to dive into. So, Sylvie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm so excited to be with you. Today is a very great day, but do you know when the better day will be? On June 2nd and 3rd, when I'm going to be with you in person. And I'm so excited to joining you at this year's STN EXPO.
Yeah, we're real excited to have you as well. And thanks for that drop. And so Sylvie and I had met through a mutual friend of ours, Ross Bernstein, who was a keynote speaker at STN EXPO Reno and Indianapolis. And Ross has got his Rolodex of people, and Sylvie came up top of the list. And so we had a chat and we hit it off. And I really thought Sylvie's expertise would be beneficial for School Transportation Nation to kind of take advantage of and listen to and glean from. And so, Sylvia, I'm picking up on your accent. That's a Floridian accent, right?
Florida, Texas, California, New York. You could guess everything, but the reality is you hear a Spanish grandmother, an Italian grandfather, a French father, and to top it off, an Austrian mother. So it's a wild, wild mix. But I promise you one thing, there was always good food on our table.
Wonderful. Well, you're worldly to boot, so we'll love that. So why don't we dive in a little bit about the topic at hand, which is you're going to be talking. We have two different groups you're talking to, right? We have our Transportation Director Summit kind of leadership experience, and we have your keynote. But let's just start off with the actual keynote itself. And I think that's basically, 5 seconds, right? It's like the first impression. When people meet you, they make snap judgments. Like, can you explain a little bit about your expertise and kind of what people could expect at that conversation?
Well, first of all, I was in the educational sector myself for many, many years. Originally, I started out as a teacher, and now I have the pleasure of being a keynote speaker. And I studied the area of first impressions and lasting impressions deeply for the following reason. It really has nothing to do with the fact if you are a good human being, a bad human being, if you want to do it or not do it. But there is fact, there is science in that we all instantly judge others and think that we know something about them just by a few elements like how they look like, how they behave, how they communicate with us in the first micro moments. So why does this matter? It matters because our brain is built in a way that we rely more on our experiences than on data and facts and information. Our unconscious mind is very strong. In fact, we know that it takes up about 90 to 95% of our thoughts. And this unconscious mind is filled with unconscious biases, confirmation bias, for example, because we always want to be right. We find confirmation in our first initial thoughts. Or anchoring bias. We cannot just let go of an information that we imprinted in our brain. Or the bandwagon effect. If somebody else confirms our first initial opinion, then we just jump on the bandwagon and think, oh, we are right because others think the same way. So yes, your first impression is important, and I will help you to understand with a very fun and interactive exercise what your first impression actually says about you, but you need to be more aware actually about what happens afterwards. How do unconscious biases, for example, influence parents you work with or somebody in the community or your team? And what do they think that they know about you that you can either use to your advantage or, unfortunately, sometimes it works to your disadvantage?
Yeah, that's super interesting. The conversations we always have is the school bus driver is the child's kind of first point of contact in the morning, and they're the last point of contact in the evening for a representative from the school when people pick up and drop off. And people always, when we talk to them as adults, have very visceral connections to their school bus driver, and they remember that driver. And drivers are always in the news. We just saw a driver had a tirade about a child that was doing things on the bus and, caused the driver to go viral. But a lot of people went to that driver's defense and said, I feel so bad because I was that child at school. And these were adults, and they donated to her GoFundMe page. So it's very interesting that you say that, because I think as a school transportation professional, you're interfacing with a lot of people. And a lot of times you don't necessarily connect with the parents unless there's a problem. So you're going into a situation that's already hostile potentially, or you're dealing with a customer service issue, or maybe their child's being bullied on the bus. And now you're being tasked by an administrator or a parent to address a concern, or you're trying to inoculate a concern. So these are all really interesting things because you're interacting with the parent, and maybe not even face to face. It's just over the phone or in a video call. It's kind of different ways we communicate and we see people these days. So quite interesting from a topic standpoint that I think school transportation professionals can take away a lot of different aspects of this, and maybe even train their teams up on being more aware of these things.
Absolutely. I have good news and bad news for you. The good news is I work with a variety of industries, and the expectations in every industry are very different. So if I work, for example, with healthcare organizations, then people want to instantly feel that you care about them and their health and their well-being. If you work, on the other hand, for example, as a lawyer, care is actually not so important. Other factors come into place. And now I always say, when it comes to industries where there is either a lot of money on the table or related to children, then there is one word that I want you to keep in mind, and that is trust. So we know that parents, for example, want to instantly feel in the first milliseconds that they can trust somebody like the bus driver, because after all, they are giving them what's most important to them, their children, right? The bad news is that you work in an emotionally charged industry for that reason. Parents very often don't rely on the data and on the facts, right? They rely on their gut feeling, and they are highly emotionally charged when they communicate with you. And that is why critical situations, usually they only get involved if something gets wrong. And even if you have the right data and facts and figures for them, they still will not comprehend that information the way you would like them, because they are so emotionally charged. So I also will bring in some information about emotional intelligence and how you can navigate that field of minds laying around and waiting for you.
Excellent. Yeah, that's super interesting. I do feel that that's a pretty good assessment too. Emotionally charged. That's pretty well said in that situation, because a lot of times too, you'll find an angry parent at the doorway of a bus wanting their child, or there have been violent altercations where parents have gotten a lot more aggressive or done things to school bus drivers. And I think as a school transportation professional, you're trying to diffuse the situation, inoculate the situation, but regardless of the information, as you said, it becomes a different thing. They're not thinking almost rationally at some point. Yeah. And, what do you do? How do you address that? So yeah, those are some big issues that I think transportation tackles on a daily basis. So that'll be great stuff.
And when I look at your lineup, it is so amazing that you thought of both points. I'm going to be the one who tells you how not get into that conflict situation from the very first moment. And I think you have somebody on your lineup that will then tell you how to de-escalate situations like this.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's shift gears a little bit. So you're going to be speaking at our Transportation Directors Summit at the Top Golf on June 3rd, which is really exciting. So we basically pull together school transportation leaders. We put them in a room and we have an executive summit, and you are leading that summit to train our guys up. So what are you going to be talking about that's different from the keynote?
Super excited about that too. At the summit, I will help leaders identify their fair advantage, meaning their unique selling points. What is unique about them? If I ask leaders, usually in organizations, say, tell me the one thing that only you can offer, the one thing that is unique about you as a leader. The responses are all true, but usually they are very general, right? Something like, I lead my team with empathy. Well, who doesn't want to do that, leading a team with empathy, right? Or they give me a skill or a knowledge that they have. And there are always other people in the room who say, well, that's also me. I lead my team with empathy too, or I also have that skill or that knowledge. And so I'm going to take you on a very thought-provoking journey. You will have to work hard to identify 15 unique selling points, 15 things that only you as a leader have to offer, and that makes you stand out from the crowd of sameness from leaders who give those average answers.
That's great. I'm really looking forward to that. I always personally get a lot out of the conversations as well. So I think whenever we work with different speakers and experts, I always think, hey, you know what? Everybody can get something out of this conversation. We have vendor partners in the room. We have transportation directors, fleet experts. It's just so great that people can kind of make it mean something for them and kind of find out what are those 15 things that make them special. So I think when you look at more internally, that's tough because you're trying to pull those things out of yourself and really identify that. So I can't wait to go through that exercise for the day. So we can't wait. So Sylvie, if people want to learn more about you, where do they go?
Well, the easiest way is to go on my website, sylviedigiusto.com. It's not the easiest name, but just Google something around you and it will pop up, or you are so kind and link in your show notes to that website. Second, I invite you on that website into different areas. The first is a free perception audit. So you can prepare a little bit for our session and actually find out how do people perceive you right now. Not meaning that it's true, but we are just going to conquer into the area of their unconscious mind and find out what do they think of you when they think of you. It's a free assessment for 10 minutes and you will get a personalized report. And in the best case, your result is that they experience you as trustworthy, because that's what people look for in your industry. The second, there is a blog with a lot of articles that you can read. And the third, I'm all over social media. You can find me on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. Just connect with me. And maybe if you have specific questions, I invite you to send them to me in advance, because then I can handle them when I have the pleasure to join you in Indianapolis.
Excellent. Well, guys, if you want to sign up and see Sylvie for yourself and get all this great knowledge, you guys can go to stnexpo.com/east. Sign up. Show dates are June 3rd through the 6th. Can't wait to see you there. We have our early bird special. Save $100 off your main conference registration, in effect till the end of April. So take advantage of that. And Sylvie, can't wait to see you here in a few months.
I can't wait to see you too. I encourage everybody to sign up. I have heard such amazing things from Ross about this conference and from everybody who has been involved. I have no sports knowledge, so I just want to give that away. Please don't send me any questions related to sports. That's Ross' area. But I'm so thrilled to join you, and buckle up. It's going to be fun. It's going to be highly interactive, and all of you are walking away with real tangible, practical information that you can apply right there and on the next day.
All right, guys, special thanks to Sylvie di Giusto, Ritu Narayan, Taylor Ekbatani. Couldn't have done the episode without you guys. TransFinder and Zoom, we appreciate you being our episode sponsors. Guys, you can visit stnonline.com for everything related to the school transportation industry. Don't forget, sign up for STN EXPO Indianapolis, June 2nd through the 6th, and STN EXPO in Reno, July 14th through the 19th. That early bird savings, $100 off your registration. Lock it in today. Guys, you can listen to this podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to pods. Nation, we love you. We'll see you next week.